Bill Whitaker on unidentified aerial phenomena.
This week on 60 Minutes, we reported on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, more commonly known as UFOs. The Pentagon says this night vision video was taken by Navy personnel and is being investigated. Unusual sightings like this one continue to occur and be captured on video. Last August, the Pentagon set up the UAP task force to collect and analyze evidence gathered by service members who are now being encouraged to report these strange encounters. We met two former Navy pilots, Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich and Commander Dave Fravor. In 2004, they witnessed something shocking, inexplicable, and seemingly out of this world. Did the thought of UFO enter your minds?
It was unidentified, and that's why it was so unsettling to us, because we weren't expecting it, because we couldn't classify it. But what I want to be really careful of here is that we don't jump to conclusions, right? That we don't sensationalize this or...
Little green men.
Little green men or extraterrestrial.
Yeah. You're seeing something that defies explanation.
Right.
Very much.
Yes.
It was November 2004, and the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was training about 100 miles southwest of San Diego. The advanced new radar on a nearby ship, the USS Princeton, had detected what operators called multiple anomalous aerial vehicles over the horizon, descending 80,000 feet in less than a second. Fravor and Dietrich, each with a weapons system officer in the back seat, were ordered to investigate and found an area of whitewater in an otherwise calm blue sea. It appeared to them that an object about the size of a 737 was just under the water.
So, as we're looking at this, her backseater says, "Hey, Skipper, do you?" And about that got out, I said, "Dude, do you see that thing down there?" And we saw this little white tic-tac looking object, and it's just kind of moving above the whitewater area.
Do you ever drop your phone and it sort of bounces off the countertop and then bounces off something else, and then it's sort of like no predictable movement, no predictable trajectory.
Yeah.
I guess it was just
like a ping pong ball.
no
Just
acceleration.
very, very random.
Acceleration.
As Dietrich circled above, Fravor went in for a closer look. So you're sort of spiraling down?
Yep. The tic-tac still pointing north-south. It goes and just turns abruptly and starts mirroring me. So as I'm coming down, it starts coming up.
So it's mimicking your moves.
Yeah, it was aware we were there. You want to see how close I can get. So I go like this, and it's climbing still. And when it gets right in front of me, it just disappears. Disappears. Like gone.
And you saw no visible propulsion,
Right.
No.
wings or anything to
No.
make it fly in our atmosphere?
No, actually, when it turned and started coming up, it was kind of like, okay. Because we have nothing that goes that fast and just starts climbing at will.
Seconds later, the Princeton reacquired the target 60 miles away.
So in a matter of...
Like that.
Yeah, it just appeared there.
In seconds,
Yeah.
it was 60 miles away. Later, another flight crew encountered what they believed to be the same object and briefly locked onto it with a targeting camera before it zipped off again.
They didn't get a visual on it, but they did get this FLIR
video.
footage, the forward-looking infrared.
So you've got the infrared image
Right.
Yes.
and your eyesight
Yes.
and the Princeton
The radar.
all saying there is something out there.
Yes.
The Princeton had been tracking the anomalous objects for days. Dietrich says they were unarmed.
You know, I felt the vulnerability of not having anything to defend ourselves, to not having any rounds, anything on the rails. If this was, in fact, a hostile threat, and we were engaged, I felt vulnerable, and then I felt confused when it disappeared.
Dietrich says she briefed superiors about what they all saw. In no time, the story of their encounter spread quickly.
Rumors like that spread within seconds. I would say with less than 30 minutes, the entire ship knew this happened.
And what was the reception like?
I actually thought it was kind of funny and started
Yeah.
giving us a lot of grief.
Ridicule.
Yeah.
Ridicule.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made cartoons, and on the ship's TV, they played Men in Black and Independence Day and Signs.
Signs.
So
And,
they made fun of it.
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody take it seriously?
Yeah, I believe the Admiral staff made a few phone calls, but that was the extent of it.
The story will continue after this.
Christopher Mellon served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence for Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush, and was on the staff of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He had access to top-secret government programs. He says what Dietrich and Fravor witnessed demonstrated technological capabilities beyond those of the U.S. military's most advanced aircraft.
In the case of the Nimitz, these vehicles seem to have unlimited loiter time, which we don't have. We're limited in terms of altitude. It's hard to design something that functions well at ground level that can go, to 60,000 or 80,000 feet.
And then drop.
And then drop down to the deck or drop to 20,000 feet, and it's like a straight vertical line.
In seconds.
Yeah, in seconds.
And this has been captured on radar.
Yeah. I've talked to some of the radar operators who observe that. Then the acceleration is far beyond anything that we're capable of.
What's the fastest one of our jets can go?
Probably for a very brief period of time, 1,500 or 2,000 miles an hour. Nothing near the degree of acceleration that has been observed in some of these cases. There's nothing we could build that would be strong enough to endure that amount of force and acceleration.
MysteryWire.com, home of the unusual and unknown. From Area 51 to the paranormal, it's your source to the most vetted UFO stories and special investigations in the world. Take a journey into the universe of MysteryWire.com.
Lou Elizondo, always great to talk to you. Thanks for taking some time out to talk to us today.
Sir, always my privilege and honor. Thank you for having me.
60 Minutes. I mean, news platforms don't get much bigger than that. Were you a bit nervous going into this?
Oh my goodness. I'm always nervous going into any type of media outlet, whether it's a small podcast with just one follower or something like this. There's a lot of eyes and ears right now, specifically paying attention to this topic. And so clearly a major media outlet like 60 Minutes is fairly significant. A lot of eyeballs are going to be watching it.
So much media coverage these days. Amazing what's unfolded. A lot of it due to your work, Chris Mellon. And I never thought I would live to see it. But all this, so much media coverage that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Not everyone reads the New York Times or reads the New Yorker or Washington Post. But people watch TV and they watch 60 Minutes. So this seems to be like a new threshold.
Well, George, you said something, and you said thanks to Chris and I. And in reality, we had something to do with it, but a lot of the credit really goes to people that are still working behind the scenes, people such as yourself, a lot of folks on social media. I think it's important that we don't forget the fact that I inherited part of this program, but this program was started by people before me. And really a lot of the lion's share of the credit really belongs to those folks who had the guts to start this effort. Folks like Senator Harry Reid and Bigelow Aerospace and my predecessor. They really were the cornerstones that began this effort.
Does 60 Minutes coverage, again, the New York Times piece that was last week, does this represent a point where we have reached a stage in the discussion of the UFO UAP where you can't put the genie back in the bottle?
Well, I think we're witnessing that right now, George. I think there are still some small pockets, some small elements within the Pentagon that are really resisting this. But I think if the last, let's say 30 days, the last month has been any type of litmus, there's a lot of people now in the US government that are paying attention and want the truth to come out. You just had the establishment of a new Inspector General survey that's being done that's going to basically assess the Pentagon's response to this topic over the last 3 years. And that's significant. That means there's a lot of people now watching the Pentagon very closely. And I'm happy to report that for the most part, I think the Pentagon is taking this seriously. It is doing a very good job. There are people in very senior positions within the Department of Defense and the intelligence community that believe this may be a national security issue. And when I say national security issue, I don't necessarily mean a national security threat. What I mean is we don't know yet if it's a threat. And I think with the coming of this 180-day report that's due to Congress, whether it's delayed or not, there hopefully will be some additional information in there to help us determine if it is indeed a threat. And if it's not a threat, then maybe we need to open up the aperture a little bit and have a more whole of government approach to this, rather than just being a defense or an intelligence effort. Maybe we need to include folks like FAA and Department of Energy and NOAA and academia and the scientific community.
First time we've seen a female aviator, her identity revealed. You've been familiar with her, what she did, and the other aviators as well for a long time, right?
George, this is a really big deal. I had some of those individuals with me at the Pentagon coming in to brief very senior members of the Department of Defense. And these folks represent some of America's finest. They're true patriots. They've been to war, they've been to combat, and they're continuing to serve their country, and they do so honorably. So for me, it's really takes a lot of courage for them to step out of the shadows and have this conversation. They obviously have a lot to lose by doing so, but at the same time, I think we have a lot to gain, because by these pilots coming forward like this, my hope is that other pilots will then feel enjoined that they too can step out of the shadows and have this conversation within their chain of command, and maybe we can get to the bottom of this incredible enigma.
And Dave Fravor, of course, friend of yours, guy I know almost as well. He's kind of the tip of the spear. He came forward, talked about Tic Tac, and he was really worried. He was worried about the impact it would have on his life. But you know what? His life hasn't crumbled. He gets irritated with some of the social media stuff and some of the other media coverage, but he's okay after coming forward on this. It does send a message, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And you know who sends the biggest message, honestly, George, in my opinion, was Senator Reid. Here's a former majority leader in our Senate, one of the most senior ranking individuals in our entire government. And he came out and had the courage to have this conversation with the American people. And that takes a lot, obviously. And of course, he was joined by three other senators, Senator Stevens and Senator Inouye, and at the time, then astronaut John Glenn. And then we find out later that other senators may have supported this as well. So I think we are seeing a change. We're seeing a shift in the way people perceive this topic, whereas 3 years ago it was fraught full of stigma and taboo. And I think people are realizing that really this is just a scientific question.
What I have concluded is, first of all, we have a massive intelligence failure on our hands. This has been going on for years, and hundreds of incidents. Nobody in the Congress was informed. Senior officials in the Defense Department were not informed. The intelligence community did not take action to support our military personnel at sea in these carrier battle groups and other locations. So it's extremely disturbing to think that after spending hundreds of billions of dollars for so many years and believing our airspace to be secure, in fact, we've had vehicles operating in restricted military airspace with impunity on a recurring and sustained basis for many years.
Yeah, that's exactly what the pilots have been saying. Congress is supposed to finally be briefed on UFOs next month. How much transparency how transparent should they be with that information? I mean, should Americans get full access to this?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these systems have multiple uses. And so if you disclose some of this information, you would compromise systems that are used in the defense to help detect and prevent nuclear warfare, for example, major strategic systems. So nobody wants to see any edge that we have in that area compromised because of the impact that could have on security. So the senators behind closed doors, of course, will get a lot more information. They'll get classified information. This report will also be produced at an unclassified level. And we should get a sense of whether there's a serious national security threat, how seriously we need to take this, how concerned should we be, and what the executive branch is going to do about it, and how they're going to organize to tackle this in the future, because they clearly have not been organized or looked at it cohesively in the past.
Do about it. These pilots on 60 Minutes last night described planes doing things that make ours look like toys. I mean, if what they're saying is true, and I have no reason to doubt them, what can we do?
Sure. So, first of all, we can overcome our self-inflicted ignorance and start collecting data. And we're talking about multiple different kinds of things, so that what they talked about last night was the extreme case of the Tic Tac. Many of the other incidents are involving vehicles that are moving much more slowly and lower altitudes. They may more likely belong to a state actor, China or Russia, different scenarios. So we may find a range of different issues to contend with.
Christopher Mellon, I'm out of time. I thank you for your time, though.
Collection and analysis.
It's tough with these Skype hookups, but I appreciate it. Thank you.